Hello, my name is Kelly Bluen. I am a certified Zentangle teacher. Welcome to 15 Minutes of Zen. In these videos, I show you how to make one tangle pattern using the Zentangle method of drawing. Today I'm using my 2" by 2" little paper tile from Zentangle.com. I've got my Micron pen. This is a PN, plastic nib pen. I have a graphite pencil for some drawing and shading and a little blending tool called a tortillon. Okay, let's get started. So today's tangle is called PiB, which stands for Pearl in Balance. It is by Hanny Nura. I do not believe that Hanny is a CZT, but if so, I'm so sorry that I did not give her credit for that. Okay, Pearl in Balance. So this is one of those tangles that is so beautiful, but is not your typical, like easily repeatable, fill up a space with it. It's more, I don't know, I think it's done pretty just as a mono tangle by itself, and it has a lot of steps. So it's a little bit different than some of the other beginner patterns that we've done, but I really wanted to do this one because I just think it's so beautiful. Okay, I'm going to begin by picking up my pencil, and I'm going to put in a little frame by putting a dot in each of the four corners, very lightly. And then I'm going to connect those. Very, very lightly. And then for this one, I'm going to put a little line down the middle, just sort of guessing at where it is. Okay. And then typically I go right to pen. I need to fix that a little bit. Kind of drawing at an angle here, so okay. So usually I go right to pen, but I'm gonna start with pencil for this one, and I recommend that you do as well. Okay, just to kind of get it in the right place. Okay, so we're going to begin with this little like S-shape curly Q pattern on each side of this line. And what happens is if we're used to making kind of a curly QS, we can do it one way, but then it's hard to flip and do the mirror image the opposite way. So to try to make that a little bit easier for you, I'm going to begin with a little letter C shape right here and a little bit away from this line, touching the bottom, a little bit away from here. So I'm just going to put in a little C that way, and then I'm going to do the mirror image and put one in on that side. Okay, now to make this swirly shape, I'm going to take the bottom of this C, I'm going to come up and around, and then down, and then over here, just past the frame, I'm going to do a little curly Q. So bottom of the C, go up and around, come down, and do a little bit smaller curly Q. Same thing on this one. I'm going to do the bottom of the C, and that's already guiding me what direction to go. So I'm just going to come up and around, and then I'm going to curl down and do a little curly Q on the end. And it's okay if these touch, it's okay if they don't touch, it doesn't really matter. And then to finish those, I can just kind of continue that curled pattern on the inside of those. So hopefully that was a little bit easier way to make those. If you're just making a single one and you don't care what size they are or how big or small they are, then it's easy. But when you're trying to mirror them, I find it a little bit trickier. Okay, so let's go ahead and take our pen and trace that. We are not tracing any of the frame, and we're not tracing the line in the middle. We're just tracing these two little curls. And feel free to change those if you need to, or make them larger or smaller before you ink them in. And look, my left side is not the same as my right side, and it's okay. You're not even going to notice that later. Okay, so the name of this tangle is Pearl in Balance. And so we're going to draw a nice round pearl shape right here. So since circles and orbs are a little bit tricky, if you want to do it with your pencil first, you can. And we're going to make it probably about the width of our pencil, not too much bigger than that. So at least that big. And then once you get that penciled in the way that you want, then you can trace it. Right now it kind of looks like a nose with a little mustache, doesn't it? That's kind of cute though. Okay, the next step is to add an aura or a line around the outside of this one. So I'm just going to go nice and close, give this little aura, and I'm going to continue the aura down here just because I have room. I think in one of her examples, she actually puts a little orb there, but maybe I'll add an orb down here at the end. I don't know, but I just added my aura instead of a little circle. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my pencil for a moment. So this next part, we're going to put in this kind of a leaf shape pattern. So I'm going to give myself a little dot up here towards the top. And then I want to mark each side where I want it to land. So I'm just going to pick a spot probably about there on each side. And when I'm showing these to you step by step, I do a lot of these little markings and lines, but if you were just going to freehand draw this, you would not need to do this layout. Okay, and I'm gonna use my pencil again. So I'm gonna kind of swoop down and then out and around like that. Down, out, and then back in. And I don't like how wide this one went, so I'm just gonna take my pencil and bring it in a little bit more. So go ahead and do that. And this line down the center was simply to help get these spirals even, and then also to keep this shape nice and straight. Once you have that, go ahead and trace it. Okay, now we're gonna add some stripes. So we're gonna add a thick stripe up here, one off on an angle, and then one over here. Same thing on this side over here. So for the top one, I'm gonna go up mostly straight, but at the top, I'm just gonna widen it the slightest. Just a little bit. I'm going to mark with my pencil that I want one here and probably here and here. And I'll just draw on each side of that line, and I'm going to start out narrow and get just a little bit wider as I go out. Narrow and then a little bit wider. Just kind of gives that illusion that that part is further away. Same thing with these, go out just a little bit wide. So I think you can see what I mean, that this is not like a very, very easily repeatable pattern. There's a lot of steps, but I do think it makes for a beautiful little piece. Okay, now that we have all those little stripes in, we're going to do another aura, but this time our pen is going to lift every time we hit a stripe. So I'm gonna go like this, this. And if this is easier for you to do in pencil first, go ahead. And then I'm going to ink in that aura. And it gives this nice bold part of the pattern. Okay, I love it. All right, the next detail is that we're gonna add a little circle to the top and then one in the middle of each of these sections. So there, there, and this bottom one, I'm just gonna tuck right here against the bottom little spiral. Okay, the last little detail she adds is that each of these spirally ends, she does a couple little like splashes. Look how cute that is. And I think in one of them she also put like a little dot on the ends and then a dot down here, which if you wanted to do a little circle you could, but I'm just gonna do a dot. And I'm also gonna add one up here at the top. I don't know why, I just feel like that kind of balances things out. And you've done it, you have made PiB. Okay, so I wanna kind of run through this quickly. I wanna put a little frame on it and then do some shading, and then I wanna talk about some variations, okay? So I'm going to ink in the frame, but I'm gonna stop right here where it gets to those little water droplets. So I'm gonna go that way, and that way. And at the end of those, I'm just gonna put a little dot just to kind of give them a little finishing touch. And then for this frame, I thought because we have these pretty spirals, I would add a spiral up here. And one here. And then I thought it would be fun to aura those just from one side of the frame to the other. And then I'm going to do a little inside line. Now it goes really close to my circle and my dot, but that's okay. Then I'm going to do a line down the sides, and I'm going to stop a little bit early and give it a dot, so it's a little bit shorter. The frame is not part of the tangle, just kind of a fun little add-on. All right, I'm also gonna take my pen and add a little bit of weight to some of these curves. So this left-hand side here, I'm just going to thicken slightly. Look at how much that adds. And I'm gonna do the left side of this and this one. And I'm going to do the opposite on this side. So I'm going to thicken that right-hand side. And then the right side of this one. And that one. And then I'm going to take my pen and I'm just going to go over this outside edge one more time to make that a little bit thicker as well. Okay, what do you think? Right, so now we're going to add some shading, which shading always adds so much. So if you've got an eraser, I've got a little kneaded eraser. I'm going to get rid of these little pencil lines. Okay, and I'm going to shade this little pearl area first. And to do that, I'm going to give it like an oval here where there's going to be a little reflection. And then I'm just going to put in some graphite around the circle and a little bit more underneath that. And when I take my blending tool, I can soften it, but I can leave that little area white and then just carefully bring this down, keeping that pretty light as well. It's not like the perfect pearl, but it gives it a little bit of dimension. Okay. On these stripes, I'm going to put a little bit on the bottom and the top. And when I push those slightly, leaving space in the middle for the white, that makes those look kind of like they're wrapping around this little shape. All right, with my blending tool already having some on it, I'm going to put a tiny bit along these edges, just a little hint of it, just so it sort of looks like it's rounding out to the back. And then a tiny bit around that black center as well. All right, I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to put just a slight amount on the inside edge of the frame. And that's going to create this pretty little shadowy backdrop. And then I'm just going to put a tiny bit underneath this spiral. That's it. Okay, you see what I mean, that it's not super easily repeatable, but once you have the basics down, it's so fun. And if you look up PiB and Hanny Nura, she has some really cool variations. And on Instagram, she does a lot of incredible mandalas. And I believe this was inspired by her mandalas. So the variations of this, you can put these little spirals in, put in a pearl, but then you could create like a mandala around it or a flower around it. So you could really do anything you want around this little pearl nesting in these beautiful spirals. So I just think it's so cute. All right, I'm going to tuck my initials in somewhere. And that's it. I hope that you loved that one. Follow me on Facebook at Let's Tangle if you'd like to share your work. And have a wonderful time. Thanks. Bye-bye.